Breakdown, baby.
Welcome to this special edition of LOXA on the Web. We are the Los Angeles County High School for the Arts, located on the Cal State LA campus and celebrating 26 years of talent.
LOXA is a small learning community of 600 students and 6 department majors: dance, music, theater, visuals, film, and musical theater.
Entrance into LOXA is by audition and academic review.
We have college preparatory academics in the morning, arts all afternoon.
Students travel from every corner of LA County to come to school.
On this edition of LOXA on the Web, our special guest is the eclectic
producer,
director,
filmmaker,
talent agent,
Broadway casting director,
writer,
actor, singer, dancer,
art collector,
local hero,
political activist, and
East Los Angeles native,
Dan Guerrero.
No wonder I'm exhausted. Oh my God.
Dan Guerrero is a true Renaissance man.
Famous among the famous, he was a successful theatrical agent with clients in original casts of countless Broadway musicals throughout the years, from Chorus Line to Cats.
A highly creative producer of programming for network and cable TV in both English and Spanish, including talk shows and music specials for NBC, PBS, HBO, Fox, Univision, and Telemundo.
He has produced and staged spectacular international arts and cultural events at such prestigious venues as the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C., the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in Los Angeles, the National Hispanic Cultural Center in Albuquerque, and the Cité de la Musique in Paris, France.
Mr. Guerrero has been twice honored by the distinguished Imagen Foundation for his positive portrayal of the Latino community in his work.
He is an actor, singer, dancer. His critically acclaimed one-man show, Gay Tino, has been performed from LA to New York to the Kennedy Center and back.
Civil rights, Vietnam, Woodstock. Man walks on the moon. I am buying dance tights at Capizio's. A couple days later, I get a note from Carlos scrawled in artist charcoal on a small piece of drawing paper. The cat is out of the bag. The frijoles have been spilled. Dad wants to know once and for all if his eldest son is gay, and Carlos spills his guts for the price of a burrito.
San Antonio Express called it fast, funny, and fabulous.
Washington Post, a disarming twist on the triumph of the human spirit theme.
And LA Times called it infectious lunacy.
And Hispanic magazine recognized him as one of the 25 most powerful Latinos in Hollywood.
Loxa, please welcome Mr. Dan Guerrero.
Mr. Guerrero, we're like 35 full-time professions. I don't know where to start.
You know, it's true, but I do want to make it clear, I really am all those things, you know, because sometimes you'll see on a resume, you know, writer, director, blah, blah, raconteur, and you're like, but, you know, and all of them have been serious careers. You know what I'm saying? It's like I didn't do this for 10 minutes and that for 10 minutes. They were like chunks, which, as you can see, I'm 142. That's the only reason I was able to do them all. Yeah, I like them. I like the variety.
So you grew up not far from here then?
I grew up in East LA, but even by the time I was 10 or 11, I'm like, I don't think so. So, I mean, nothing against East LA, but I just knew that there was just a lot more out there, you know. And I'm sure there's a lot of people, wherever you are in whatever state, but for me, it happened to be East LA. So, sure enough, I moved to New York when I was 20. And I liked it so much, I stayed 21 years. So that was, I always think that that's where I was born in Tucson, raised in LA, but I grew up in New York because my first apartment, my first job, for everything. So 20 years in New York City is cool. I advise it heavily.
What was it like to be in New York during the golden age of Broadway?
It really was, you know, because I moved to New York, God, shall I say the year? I went to East LA College, 2 years, and ELAC, and then I left for New York, and that was I arrived in Valentine's Day with my best friend. We grew up together, a block apart in East LA. He wanted to be an artist, I wanted to be in musicals, so we moved to New York. We arrived in New York on Valentine's Day, 1962. Now it's important to know that only because nowadays New York is like going to Rancho Cucamonga. Where is that? As a matter of fact, you know, it's no big deal. But in 1962, two little kids from East LA, never been there, didn't know anybody who had been there. We just went. And that first day, I'm like, no wonder I wanted to come here. It was just it. Still is.
What can you tell us about your parents? Sorry.
My parents, my father was a musician, singer, composer. He was known as the father of Chicano music. So when I was growing up is when his career was first starting. And by the time I was in high school, he was already in the Spanish language community, widely known. And over the years, he became more and more widely known to the point where he kind of reached legendary status, truly. He was the first Chicano ever to receive the National Medal of Arts, which is our nation's highest arts award. That was from the Clinton White House. And so he was great. Mom was a homemaker in the days when ladies could stay home and raise children. It didn't take 9, salaries. So she was a very strong lady, very funny lady. Didn't mean to be, she just was, It's not like she was clever, witty. She would just say things that you're like, really? That were funny. So they were great. But, I just knew I had to get out on my own because they were both enormous personas. They were just gigantic, and I thought, oh my God, let me out of here. So I needed to get away, as most young people do, I think, to really find your own life, your own path, your own way. Yeah.
What were your dreams when you left high school?
I wanted to be in musicals.
Oh, so you knew from then.
Oh, honey,
You
please.
always know.
Well, you know what happened? First of all, it shows you, that's why Susana Guzman being here is like gold for you all. I know that you know that because she is a beautiful spirit who loves these young people, loves the arts. And I was in junior high. I was taking drama in junior high in 1955, if you can imagine what that class must have been like. And Mrs. Jourdain was her name. I'll never forget her. She was just a beautiful, sweet lady. And one day she announced that she was going to take our class to a movie musical. I didn't know what one was. I didn't care. I was excited because it was going to be in Hollywood. And in those days, again, East LA to Hollywood, my God, you may as well have gone across the world. And it was the, believe it or not, first run, I'm not talking seen it on Nick at Night, first run of Oklahoma with Shirley Jones and Gordon McCrae. And when that curtain opened on that CinemaScope screen in Technicolor, my jaw dropped. I'm like, singing and dancing through life. Who wouldn't want to do that, man? And then my friend Charles at the time said, well, we got to go to New York. If I want to be an artist, you want to be. And so we just couldn't wait to get to that age when we could do it. So it was that teacher, you know, shows you the info. One thing. I might have been the only one in that class that was influenced that way, but you can't reach everybody. But if you can reach one, you're good. So thank you, Mrs. Jourdain. Or thank you, Mrs. Jourdain. Well, I don't know where she is. She might have had a secret life I know nothing about.
Okay, so you have reinvented yourself so many times.
Many times.
And they've been always creative and very successful. So how did you manage to do that?
I kind of learned everything as I went along. I really did. I went to be a performer in musicals, but again, it was a very different time, and I was exotic when I go to audition because they didn't know what a Chicano was. Most of the time they would just think, well, he's really good, but he's too Mediterranean. They just didn't know if I was Italian or what I was. But it was still very much the era of the blonde, blue-eyed juvenile. It really was. So roles were a little harder to come by. So I did stock. It was the era of musical reviews, where 3 men in tuxes and 3 ladies in gowns, and they do Cole Porter reviews in very chic nightclubs, and I did a lot of those. And but one day my agent said she was just going crazy and she needed somebody to help out. If I knew somebody, they could still go to auditions, they could still do their thing. But I said, oh, I'll do it. Fast forward a dozen years. I didn't mean to, but I really liked it. And I also like getting a check every week. and I really loved it for a long, long, long time. So really my big agent years were from a chorus line where I had half the original cast. I'll never forget getting a phone call from a client who was out on the road with Debbie Reynolds and Irene. I know it sounds frightening, but it's true. And she said, oh, I'm going to leave the show. I'm like, what? That's $10 a week commission. Well, why? Well, Michael has been interviewing all of us, and we've been taping all these stories, and they're going to make it into a musical. It's going to be a workshop. Workshop. Never heard the word before. A chorus line is what started the entire workshop situation for Broadway musicals. Because it used to be that you'd get hired and you'd rehearse at rehearsal pay, and you'd hit the road and you do Philadelphia, you do Boston, you do at full salary. Workshop, you get $10 a week for 12 weeks. It really changed many things for a lot of people. And so anyway, this workshop, and so she did leave, and it was a chorus line. And she won a Tony as the original Sheila, Kelly Bishop. So that was the first big time I had all these clients in the show. And my last contract was for Cats, for Ken Page, Old Deuteronomy, who's still a very dear friend. And those were my agent years. And yes, there were the years of fabulous musicals, but a lot of turkeys too. I stayed in New York a little longer than I had anticipated. But I won't be at the theater 5 times a week. And then I realized I was lucky if I saw 3 or 4 great shows a year. Most of them were like, so I thought I could live back in LA and come to New York twice a year and see all the really good shows. And that's what I've done. So.
You've done producing and performing. Where does your heart lie?
I've thought about that quite a bit because I'm grateful that we're in a time more so now where you don't have to choose. Mm-hmm. There was a time when you were either an actor or you were a producer or you were a director, with the exception of Orson Welles and Woody Allen, people like that. And it's not like that anymore because it's a completely different part of my brain, and it uses a completely different set of creative juices, So I love that I can be, directing something at the LA Opera, as I did with our beautiful Susanna, with a huge orchestra and singers, and then I'm staging a 2-character play, and then I go and I perform my solo show, and then I go and I do a TV pilot, which I just produced a few weeks ago. I like the variety, although it does. I just did last weekend. I did an event in Tucson and Linda Ronstadt was in it, who's a dear friend, and she couldn't get over it because I put the evening together. It was honoring some guy, so it's one of the things I do so well, which is a potpourri, meaning like I'll do a Kennedy Center event. I did recently Arabesque, which was arts and culture era of the Arab world. So on one stage in the Opera House, in one night, in one show, there was a 165-piece symphony orchestra from Egypt. There was a 120-member children's choir from Syria. There was Debbie Allen choreographed 40 dancers from Oman, the master musicians of Jajuka. I mean, it's this whole mixture, you know. So this was kind of like that. Not as grand. There was a cowboy band, there was a folklorico, but all these things, and I'm backstage doing all this, and plus I was going to sing a song that my dad made famous. Tucson's his hometown. And I'm doing it, all of a sudden, oh, time to, and I went out and I did my song, and Linda was there. She goes, how do you do that? How do you go from doing that to that? And I don't know, I just do. I don't know why. It didn't seem strange to me. But I did. It took me a second to, okay, shift gears and get out of producer, director mode and get into performer mode. But it also helps. When I wrote my solo show, I wrote it with the producer's mind too. So it would be economical to travel. There's no set. There's one stool, tall stool, one costume. True, Bob Mackey did it for me, but it's one costume. And projection visuals, they're on a DVD, and the music's on a CD. I put my little costume and I go, it's cheap. So I designed it with a producer in mind. So I don't know, it kind of works for me.
Well, there's so much to talk about. I'm sure our audience has questions, so we're going to take this time to open it for audience questions.
Are you still awake? Shall I call on them, or are you going to call on them? Well, this young lady, I think, was first.
What is the hardest thing you've ever had to face in your career?
The hardest thing I've ever had to face, aside from the years when you're not working and barely making your bills, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, because what's hard about it? I mean, to me, it's all part of I mean, even the hard parts, you know, because you're working just as an independent, which I am. You know, it's not like I work for the Kennedy Center or I go in, I do the gig, I get paid, I go, you know, and I like that because it gives me artistic freedom as well, you know. But the hard part is that there are times when, the phone's not ringing, or you do 3 jobs and each of them pay a dime, because I'll do jobs that I really want to do. You know, sometimes they pay a lot, sometimes they don't, but it's important. I want to do it because of this, because of that. So the hardest part is making a living at it, I guess. And I've been lucky to have been okay. But that's the hard part. I was talking to a friend recently who was a corporate person, and she's like, oh, well, at least, you know, you're getting to an age where you'll have your 401ks, your pension plans. I was like, what are you talking about? I don't have any stuff like that. She was like, really? I said, how do you have a 401k and then you got to pull out to pay your mortgage that, you know? To me, I wouldn't trade it for all the 401ks. I wouldn't. I love that. But you have to have that kind of mentality to deal with that. If you really need that creature comfort, and that's cool, then you don't go into this business, that's for sure.
As we're just starting out as young artists, do you have any advice for us that you wish someone had told you when you were about 17?
I just think you have to stay on your path, and and stay on your path no matter what, because you're like, oh, this is the worst time for Broadway, because oh, well, this is not a good time. But you just have to do it when you do it. It's your path. My partner was recently all freaked because of what's going on with the economy. And I said, you know what? Even during the Depression, not everybody sold apples, right? So you got to do what you do, and you have to obviously love it more than anything. Because unless you're going to drop dead right now, if you don't follow it, then don't do it. It's hard. It's hard, but it's the best. And you know what's the best about it? The people. Oh my God. You meet the most fabulous, neurotic, interesting, weirded out people. Oh my God, it's the people. That's why I was having dinner with a friend recently who's a bit of a name, and she goes, oh, I had the most difficult night. I had dinner with 4 civilians. And when it's people that aren't in your business, they just lack the pizzazz. they lack the je ne sais quoi. There's something missing, They're lovely people, but you have to have limited time with civilians, I find.
Scott.
Was there ever a time in your life where you doubted yourself and what you wanted to do? And
Never. There were times, I used to have a bad habit of being offered something, especially in when I started producing and directing, like, I'd say yes, and oh my God, will I be able to do this? Can I do this? And and then I always would. So one day I decided to remove that middle piece and just say yes, and I know I can do it, and I just took that middle chunk out. But that was the only doubting thing. But even at that moment, it wasn't that I didn't think I could do it. I just wasn't sure how. Now I don't care that I'm in the middle of that right now. I have to write a 45-minute theatrical piece for a company. It's too long boring to go into. And I'm like, what the hell am I still don't know. But I absolutely know that on November 18th, I'll get out there and I'm going to do something great. But it takes time, I was doing this huge mariachi festival gala thing about a month ago, 5,000-seat arena, 10 mariachis and folklorico, and boo, 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 Aztecs off left, this huge thing. And I'm running around directing, and blah, 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 and this woman's in the front row. I don't know who she is. I mean, at rehearsal, but she must be somebody's friend. And she comes up to me, she said, I would love to get inside your head. It must be like Disneyland. I loved that. I thought, that is the coolest thing ever. And so yesterday I was in the middle of the meeting with this thing I was supposed to do, and I told that story, and they laughed. I said, and at the moment, what's in there are the teacups, because I have no idea. It's in there. Oh, it's in there. But right now it's like, One more question, that's it. This young lady.
Yes. I wanted to ask you, this summer I met Bernadette Peters in
Oh, yes.
And I wanted to know, out of all the people you've met or seen on stage, whose performance made the biggest
Oh my
impact
God,
on
if you
your
talk
life?
about perform. First of all, Bernadette lives across the street from me. When she's in LA, she's mostly back east, but I know her barely, but I run into her at Gelson's. Two things. Are you talking about the persona overall or a performance?
Overall.
I'd have to say Sarah Jessica Parker. Because what happened? Sarah, I was her first agent in New York. She was 11. And this girl was a grown-up in a child's body. She knew exactly what she wanted, totally focused, absolute clarity, and I don't mean in an obnoxious child actor kind of way. She was very clear on what she was going to do. That's the only reason she was there. Her mother, who's the sweetest lady in the world, she's like, Sarah wanted to come to New York. What could we do? They came on an Easter break, and a casting director friend of mine, when I was an agent, used to cast all of Pinter's plays, and he said, oh my God, he was doing The Innocents with Claire Bloom, and the two little kids had been cast, but he cast this girl and her brother as the understudies, Sarah Jessica and her brother Toby, I think it was. And he said, you've got to see these kids. They're here from Ohio. They've been here 4 days, came to the audition. We hired them. They're fantastic. Long story short, I met them. They signed with our agency. And even though I didn't work with children, we had a children's division, Sarah always was kind of my person because of that. And the mother would say she wanted to come. They came because that's what Sarah wanted. I mean, she really did. And today, Sarah is exactly the same, but the opposite, in that she's still that little girl. She's still, this sounds so pretentious, but we were in the Hamptons 2 summers ago. Coincidentally, I was staying with friends in a house. She was 2 houses down. We have this mutual friend. She'd come each day to the pool, and I'm watching her, and I'm thinking, oh my God, she's just like she was. She had cut off jeans, no makeup, a little simple gold band, her hair thrown up, and, totally unstar-like. And she's a beautiful, 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 beautiful person. And that she not only got famous, but a glamorous fashion icon when she would lose jobs when she was little because she didn't fit the typical little curly hair, turned up nose. She had a completely different look, and look what she's done. So she is, you're right to have her as your idol.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
What about the next 50 years? Thank you very much.
It's been great having you.
Thanks. Thank you all.
Thank you to the Art Schools Network and Santa Fe University of Art and Design.